Hello my dear students, and welcome once again to another video for our class in Programming 2. In this video we are going to talk about access modifiers. So what is an access modifier? Before I actually give you the explanation to what is an access modifier, and also in order for you to understand more clearly the explanation that I'm going to give you in a while, we need to first take a look at a typical structure of a Java project. A Java project can contain several packages. And in one package, inside of a package, that is where you can put all the classes that belong to a group. Just think of a package as a folder, basically a folder that allows you to group your classes into more logical grouping. So inside of a project is a package, and inside of a package will be classes. And in a typical Java project, you will have several packages, and each of these packages may contain several classes. That is the structure of a typical Java project. So now let's take a look at what is an access modifier. So the access modifier in Java, it specifies the accessibility or the scope of a field, a method, a constructor, or even a class. We can change the level of fields, constructor, the access level of these things through the use of the access modifier. And there are 4 types of access modifiers. If you do not put any access modification, then it's the default access modifier. Another one would be a private, then protected, and public. Let's take a look at this in detail. So a default access modifier, once again, can be achieved by not giving any access modifier to any member of your class. And when I say member of a class, it includes a field or property, the methods, and as well as the constructor. These are the class members that we are talking about, which can be given an access modifier. But if you do not put an access modifier to any of these members, it is going to have the default access modifier. And when a class member has a default access modifier, its access level is within the package. As you can see earlier, I have shown you the structure of a typical Java project, and classes will be inside of a package. So when you do not provide an access modifier to a class member, that particular class member is accessible by any other classes within the same package. Let's take a look at this in graphic mode. So here we have a package, and inside of a package, you're going to have a class. And notice that this class has 3 members: method 1, method X, and method 2. Method 1 do not have an access modifier. Method X is public, and method 2 is private. With the method 1 that does not have an access modifier, it will have the default access modifier, and therefore it means that method 1 is accessible by any other classes in the same package. So if you have your class 2, which is part of that same package 1, then class 2 can access method 1 in class 1. Just like that. But besides the method 1, which is a default access modifier, the method X is also accessible within class 2 because method X is public. But method 2 is private in class 1, and therefore it is not visible within class 2. Another access modifier is the private access modifier. We've seen this before. The access level of a private modifier is only within the class. It cannot be accessed from outside the class. So going back to the same example, we have method 2 is a private access modifier, and therefore within class 2 you cannot access method 2. Within class 2 you can access method 1 in class 1 and method X in class 1, but not method 2. That is because of the private access modifier. So if you are going to call class 1 method 2, this is going to be an error. Another access modifier is the protected access modifier. The access level of a protected modifier is within the package and outside the package through child class. If you do not make the child class, it cannot be accessed from outside the package. The problem with this is we don't have any experience yet, or it is the child class term is new to you, because child classes and parent classes are within the lesson on hierarchy or inheritance. But a short explanation of hierarchy or inheritance is that you can create or you can define a class that is based on another class. So if, for example, you have class A, you can create or define class B based on class A. In that case, class A is a parent class and class B is the child class, because class B is based on class A. And so that is the relationship between a child class and a parent class. So the protected access modifier allows you to give access to class members to the child classes of a class. Let's take a look at this in example here. Here we have two packages, package 1 and package 2. Inside of package 1, we see class 1 with 3 members, method 1, method X, and method 2. Here, method 1 is having a default access modifier, method X is public, and method 2 is protected. Because of this, package 2 will have access to class 1 method X simply because method X is public. But aside from that, it will package 2 or class 2 will also have access to class 1 method 2 because method 2 is protected. And as you can see, class 2 extends class 1. This means that class 2 is based on class 1. And therefore, class 2 is a subclass of class 1. And that is why it is able to access method 2 within class 1, because the member method 2 in class 1 is protected. However, class 2 cannot access method 1 because method 1 is using the default access modifier, and in default access modifier, it is only accessible within the package. And as you can see here, class 2 and class 1 are in different packages. Finally, the public access modifier. The access level of a public modifier is everywhere. It can be accessed from within the class, outside the class, within the package, and outside the package, even if they're not in the same hierarchy. So that is the public access modifier. Let's take a look at these terms or these concepts in code. Let's go. Alright, so for this demo, I'm going to start with an empty folder, and from here I will create a new folder for our project. And I call this access modifier demo. And let's open this up using our Visual Studio Code editor. Great. Alright, so we have a blank slate. Let's first create a class. Let's just call this class myapp.java. Okay, and let's give it a main method. Oops. Alright, and we'll also add another class, say app helper.java, and let's just put one method here. This is going to give us a sum of two values, int a and int b, So of course, this is simply going to return a plus b. A very bogus method just for demonstration purposes. So here in our my app, we can actually create an instance of this app helper inside of our main. So we can say app helper is equal to new app helper. Oops, like that. And maybe let's declare two values. So two variables will have first, give it a value of 12, and second, give it a value of 15, and let's have a sum. And here we're going to use the helper. So we'll have helper dot sum, and then we give it the first and the second value. Now we can display the output of that. The sum is sum. Okay, let's try and run this program. Run. And there we go. The sum is 27. So it's working. Now, imagine you are writing a whole project and it's going to have tens, even hundreds of classes, right? And if you are going to put all those classes right there, it's going to be very chaotic. And that is the reason for having packages. So here we are going to simulate that situation wherein you have a lot of classes and you want to organize things. So in this case, in this demo, we'll be putting these two classes into a package. Okay, to do that, we simply are going to code inside of here and add package, and we give it the name of package, say app. So that we're going to have an app package. You'll notice that it's going to have an error because there's no package called app yet. But it's very easy here using Visual Studio Code. You just mouse over here and there's a quick fix. And there are two options you can have. One is move this app.java file to package app. And another one is to remove the package declaration. But this is what we want to do because we want to organize things. So click on that. And you'll notice now that it's created this new folder called app. Even in our folder here inside of Access Modifier Demo, we now have an app folder. And you'll notice that the myapp.java is no longer here. That's because it's now inside of the app folder. Okay? So that's what happened. But now, app helper is no longer accessible. No? Let's also move app helper inside and put it into our app package. So go to that file. By the way, save this one first. Go to that file and inside of here, we're gonna say package app. And same thing is going to have an error. So just mouse over and quick fix and move that. Now app helper and my app is in the same folder. So they are basically in the same package. And so if, as you can see here, this class member of app helper do not have a public. See, no private, no protected. It is using the default access modifier. And since this is using the access modifier of default, that this method is accessible within the same package. And since app helper and my app are in the same package, it is able to instantiate and call upon the helper.sum method. And they're now in a package. All right, so that's the default access modifier for you. Now let's add an app helper method here, a private one. And actually, we actually don't have values for our data for our app helper. So let's provide some data here. Let's have some integer 1 and integer 2. Okay, and let's have, instead of calling sum in there, we can simply return here integer 1 plus integer 2. Okay, And of course, we now have a different way of processing this because some do not no longer have what's this arguments, or the declaration of the sum here no longer have parameters, and so you should not have some arguments here. But of course, where is the data taken from? It's taken from the fields within the app helper. And you notice that when we created app helper here, we did not provide any value. So instead of doing something like this, we can instead do something like helper dot integer 1, and this one is for helper dot integer 2. And so this sum method is going to call on the value of the addition of integer 1 and integer 2, which was being set here. And of course, this will now yield the same output as before. But this time, this is more object oriented. Now, we can add a private method here. So private, say, increase, private void increase. And this will simply, we are going to simply increment our values. Okay. Now, this increase method is private, cannot be accessed here inside of my app. If we try, for example, we'd say helper dot you don't see any increase anymore. See that? It's invisible within my app. So if you are going to type it like so, this is an error. Okay? And if you run this, this is not going to run because there's that error. That is because the increase method is private. So that is the private access modifier for you. Even though they are in the same package, it's not accessible because the increase method is accessible only within here. So perhaps if we are going to add another method, for example, int, and say grow and get some. All right. So this method is going to, we can call increase here, increase, and then return integer 1 plus integer 2. All right, there you go. So this third method here, grow and get some, is having no access modifier, and so it is using the default access modifier, and thus that is now accessible here. So we can now say, since the grow and get some returns an int, we can assign it to an int. So we could say int sum2 is equal to helper dot grow and get some. So there you go. And so here we can just the new sum is sum2 right there. So if we run this program, we should see two values now, 27 and 29. All right. And so that is the private access modifier, and this is only within the class, and since this is the same class, it is capable of accessing increase right here. Okay, that is the private access modifier. Now the protected access modifier, I am not going to demonstrate that because we still need to understand the concept of inheritance. But the public access modifier, actually also don't have to demonstrate that, because as long as it is public, it can be accessed anywhere. Right? So let's take a look at creating a new package. Let's create a new file here, and should be outside. All right, let's see, create a new file, and let's just say this is a person. Okay, and we'll give this person a name and an age, and he can introduce himself. And by introduce, simply display a message, hello, I am, and then the name, then space, the age, years old. Just like that. All right, and this is public. You see that? It's public. And let's also put this person into its own package. So package this one up with say models. And of course, we are going to quick fix this, and it's going to create a new folder, models. And inside there is a person. Now, in order for our app here to access person, we need to import this because they are now in different package. And to import this, we simply say import. The name of the package is models, then dot, the name of the class is person. So that's how you import that. And now we can create an instance of person. So you can say person p1 is equal to new person. And we can set p1 dot name equal to, say for example, Henry, and p1 dot age as 34. Right? So right there. Now we have a problem. We have name and age cannot be set because person is in package models, and the string name and int age are both default access modifier, which is only accessible within the package. All right, so that's the problem there. And one way of solving this is by turning this into public. But of course, this is not a great idea. But one way of solving the problem is just want to solve the problem. Anyway, later on when we talk about accessors and mutators, that you'll be explained on why. But now that it is the name and the age are both public, if you go back to my app, it's now okay. And now we can call p1 dot introduce. All right, and if we run this program again, you'll have the two sums, and here's the introduction of the person. Hello, I am Henry, 34 years old. All right, so that is access modifiers for you. I hope you have understood the lesson. If you did not understood the lesson, maybe I suggest you re-watch this video or watch other videos from other sources about the same topic. And as always, that is all for now, and see you again in the next one. Bye bye.